with public speaker and with race strategist, Ms. Cleo Scott Brown. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you for joining us on Real Talk with Rajan. Now, as you know, one of the goals of Real Talk with Rajan is to shine a light on the people in the community who are doing great things. I know that we talk about what's going on in Atlanta, New York, you know, the West Coast, all these great things, but we have people right here in Charleston that are doing amazing things. So tonight we're here to shine a light on her. First of all, thank you for joining me again. And what brings you to our show this evening?
Well, I would like to share some of the work that I'm doing. I think that there are things going on around Charleston as it relates to race that maybe people aren't aware of. So I would like to share some of that and some of the work that I'm doing, using my writings, my speaking, and how we can possibly make some progress in the area of improved race relations.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you again, and that sounds great. So, where are you from? Let's start there.
I'm originally from Louisiana, a tiny little town called Lake Providence.
Okay.
Louisiana, long ways from
Okay, is that southern Louisiana or northern Louisiana?
No, northeast Louisiana.
Okay.
A little northeast corner where all the majority Black parishes were right together.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was an area where no Black people were allowed to vote.
Wow.
Like my hometown for 60 years.
Wow.
Because it was such a major concentration of African Americans that they were afraid that if they let the first Black person vote, then they would get congressmen and state legislators and everything. So in fact, that's what the first book is about, that whole process of breaking a system that had been in place for 60 years.
Wow.
My father was instrumental in breaking that system.
So how did you get into, and I imagine it probably started with the race strategy and then went to public speaking and then went to, or was it, like how did that happen?
Not quite like that.
Mm-hmm.
It started with writing Witness to the Truth.
Wow, okay. All
and
right.
What I discovered was that the book, my dad's story, my hometown story, it explains so much about race relations, and it starts from slavery and it steps you through history, through each period of history, and how Blacks and whites were either moving together or against each other, and it explained so many different things about why we do what we do today, and how we were controlled when we were controlled, and how we got away from being controlled when we got ourselves free. And so after that was published and I got to go out and talk to all these audiences about, and race was like such a primary part, even though voting is the main focus. Race was the underlying story that went through the whole book. It allowed me to have all these one-on-one conversations, and sometimes, like often, I'd be the only Black person there speaking to an all-white group, and then they're like these burning questions that they always wanted to ask, but were afraid to
Right. Those are always fun.
Yeah, no, they are actually.
No, trust me, I understand. I feel it.
And I think I discovered along the way that I was really good at explaining issues of race, particularly to white people. It's like my gifting, my calling. Strange as that sounds.
Good stuff. Okay, so I heard you mention your father. All right, so I imagine, so you said, so pretty much the basis of your first book was centered around your father.
Yeah.
So was your father involved in civil rights or anything of that nature?
Yes, he was involved in a federal voting rights case, like before Selma, my little town, my little country town, my dad convinced Robert Kennedy, who was the Attorney General at the time, to get involved in our town, and well, my dad kind of invited himself to these voting rights hearings that were being held across the United States. And that's how he met people from Washington, D.C. and became friends with them. And when they went, he and another minister went and testified. they pulled this whole economic boycott
Wow.
against them, and my dad couldn't buy anything anywhere, and the big black farmer who went with my dad, you know, he couldn't buy grain for his cattle, he couldn't get gas to heat his house, they wouldn't buy his soybeans, wouldn't buy his cotton, and so my dad reported it to the Justice Department, and then Robert Kennedy ended up taking on the case and filing a suit against the whole state of Louisiana.
And this is when Robert Kennedy was the Attorney General?
Yes.
Okay.
Before he ran for president and got killed.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a home where, you know, you just don't take stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how long it's been messed up.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just assume that it can't ever be fixed.
You don't just go along and get along.
Yeah. So, you know, when I was 6, I was in the car with my dad when he was shot after they won in court.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I've experienced cross burnings and
wow.
running out the house in the middle of the night and the building's on fire, and yeah.
So how did that,
pretty traumatic.
So how did that mold you as a woman, as someone who grew up in the midst of that, like you said, witnessing the cross burnings, witnessing the violence that came as a part of that movement, with your father being one of the people who, you know, were at the helm of it in your area? How did that grow you?
Well, one, I think it made me wise because I grew up in a house with the 2 wisest people. I still think they're the 2 wisest people I know, my mom and my dad. And so I got a lot of insight into how people think and feel and operate. Mm-hmm. And I learned about not carrying grudges and you know, moving, not getting stuck, and just moving on. I learned about fearlessness. Yeah. Because my dad would laugh and like, oh, they're burning our cross now. You know, shall I go out there and shoot him under the sheets and shoot him in the kneecaps, and then tomorrow we'll know who that was under that sheet, you know?
Wow, that's
just, you know, he would always kind of make it like a joke, and so I think I did learn fearlessness from him, from that, and I learned that you don't just take things in your community. You don't just lay down and let things happen to you.
Wow.
And so I am really trying to get Charleston people like stop letting stuff happen to you. Let's get going. Let's do something.
Okay, so let's pivot on to that. Social activism, as we currently know it in the community. There's lots of things that have been coming up recently. Excuse me, most people. You got some comments coming through. I want to read a couple of your comments before I pivot. It says from Pamela Demery says, "Love that woman, powerful."
From Vegas.
Yes. All right, come on, baby.
She's a radio show talk.
Come on, radio show talk host. Thank you for joining Real Talk with Rajan. Miss Sherelle, 2 of my favorite people. Praise God. You know Miss Sherelle?
You know her?
Yeah, Miss Sherelle. I know her since middle school, elementary school almost.
Oh yeah.
I know her for a long time.
Worked with her on some projects. Yes.
She's the most brave woman I know. Good stuff. So they're saying great things about you, and I'm learning great things. And this is a great conversation. So thank you so much. Please feel free to leave comments, questions. If there's something you want me to ask, please let me know, because I'd love to find out as well as I get to know Miss Brown. So Brown, are y'all related? You and Miss Sherelle?
No, I'm not related to any Browns.
Okay, all right. So make sure. All right. So
hardly any Browns, other than my son and my grandchildren.
So pivot. So what brought you to Charleston? Let's go from there. We'll pivot from there.
Okay.
What brought you to Charleston?
What brought me to Charleston? I went to college at Grambling State University.
Tigers, right?
Yes.
Doug Williams.
Yes, he was my classmate.
Okay.
He was in the same grade, same class with me, and Coach Rob. So I ended up marrying somebody from Johns Island.
Oh, wow.
So that's how I ended up in South Carolina.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. It all comes together now. Okay, cool. Well, thank you for coming to the city. Now that we welcomed you to the city formally, which I imagine you've probably been here for quite some time. I've been here a long time. But I had to formally do it as a Charleston native. It's very important. There's been a lot of things that have happened.
I'm going to come here.
Yeah, I know. Especially if you're on John's Island, you know it. As someone who's transplanted to the Charleston area, that went through the civil rights movement, who had a father that was involved in the movement, what has been your reaction to the things that we've seen happen in Charleston? Whether it be the Manual AME to Walter Scott, to the host of things that we've talked about when it comes to Cajun and the article, just the research that just came out. What is your take on the way Charlestonians are dealing with things?
Well, I've gotten in trouble before.
Okay, so do I need to do this?
or saying things about, oh, ever since I came to Charleston, I've been saying,
okay,
Charleston people just take stuff, and white people seem to be quite comfortable in not dealing with things.
Okay.
And so, I think that they were like really excited that, in Charleston, there was forgiveness and all of this.
Charleston strong.
But I have to say that the way that Charleston responded to the murders created something special. And what I mean by that is it gave Charlestonians nowhere to look at but themselves.
Wow.
Because if we had marched, if we had protested, if we had torn up things, then all the news focus would have been on that.
Absolutely.
And they would not have had to deal with the issue of race.
Absolutely.
And by what happened when it happened, it caused people to have to start looking at themselves. So when you think about it, more discussions have gone on about race in Charleston than I've seen anywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, even 2 years later, this continuing discussion about race.
Absolutely.
And the project that I'm involved with the YWCA. Are you familiar with the Race Equity Institute?
No, I'm not. No.
Oh my goodness. It is the best.
Okay.
The best race training I think it could possibly be.
Okay.
Because it focuses on history. And it starts with the very first time that a law or a ruling was made in America that distinguished between blacks and whites, Europeans and Africans. And so it starts with the first indentured servant, the 3 indentured servants that ran away, John Punch, and 2 Europeans, and he was an African. And when they were captured, and they had all had 7 years of indentured servitude, and when they went before the courts, the African was given permanent servitude, where the 2 Europeans were only given 2 additional years.
Wow.
I mean, 4 additional years. And that was the first ruling in America where there was some distinguishing of punishment for a crime based on color.
Wow.
And then from there on, it just stepped on this whole creation of whiteness.
Wow.
And so that class is all about the history of whiteness.
The history of whiteness.
Wow. And when different ethnic groups got to be white, like the Irish got to be white in about 1910, and the Italians in the 40s, and the Jews in the 50s. And now in 2020 on the new census, then they'll have white Hispanics and separated from other Hispanics. Because whenever the numbers start going down, the majority numbers start going down, then they have to add another excluded group to the whiteness.
Interesting.
And so this class really teaches from beginning to now and all the different systems. So it teaches how the VA laws and the housing laws and all this, how they created this great division in economic status.
Wow.
It's an excellent class. And so after the class is over, then they have these affinity groups. And so I'm the facilitator for the people of color.
Okay, all right.
Affinity group, and then there's a white affinity group.
So this is down to the YWCA, downtown Charleston, Cannon Street?
No, that's the YW.
Oh,
I mean YM. This is the YW.
Where's
the
that
women.
Where's that at? I thought, no, because on Cannon Street, it used to be the YWCA, because I was in a talent show there once.
Okay, well, they moved.
Okay.
Okay, it's West Ashley on Cosgrove.
Wow, so if somebody wanted to find that, like, is that something that's open to the public, the general public can come? Or?
Oh, they just had finished the class yesterday.
Wow, wow.
But no, it's a cost to it. So.
Well, I mean, do you know much about it?
$400.
$400. I mean, to find out about.
It's a 2-day class, and it's 9 to 5, and you're not sharing any personal experiences. It's just a journey.
Wow.
It's just a journey, and at the end, it's a mixed class. It's whites, blacks, Hispanics, Indians, other Asians.
Well, what I find, and I would say this, is what I find with a lot of people, and especially, I think, like you said, because of the way that the Manual 9 shooting and even the Walter Scott shooting in Charleston, the way the response happened to it, like you said, forced Charleston to have certain discussions that we would not be having otherwise. You look at Ferguson, you look at Baltimore, they're not talking about, improving racial relations or what's even wrong with the racial divide. In Charleston, we've been able to have certain things like, I know last year, Ta-Nehisi Coates came to speaking college of Charleston. Muhadim became a worldwide phenomenon for jumping and capturing the Confederate flag.
Even greater, because that kind of pissed me off, the way that they described him in the papers after he had been murdered. But his contribution was that he brought the police officer to justice.
Absolutely.
Which makes me suspicious of his getting murdered.
Yeah, that's a discussion that I've definitely heard in circles. That's definitely a discussion I've heard in circles. But what I was trying to get to is that when I do have friends, like you said, I work with the majority Caucasian people and stuff, and you come into a lot of interactions, especially in Charleston, where people, when they actually are honest with you, they will tell you that largely they don't talk about it because really they don't know and they're not educated about what's happened.
Oh, that was I do a monthly newsletter called History Matters Report, and the topic of the last issue was stop saying that they know. And it was a whole blog, a piece that I wrote about Black people walking around saying that white people know.
Yes.
They don't know because they don't have to know.
Right.
Because it's not impacting their world.
Absolutely.
And then when they try to find out, we answer in such a way that they never ask again.
Right. Absolutely. I agree. And that's a key point. I think that, and that's why with this show, one thing that I aim to do all the time is bridge the gap of discussion. Is to have those, difficult conversations that maybe somebody wouldn't breach, which I'm still trying to get somebody on the show to come on and talk to me about what I'm missing about Donald Trump. Somebody's got to come do it. I'm waiting. I'm still waiting. If anybody would come on and just engage me about this whole Donald Trump thing, about what I'm missing, about what's so great about his presidency, because maybe there's a section of America that thinks it's really great what's going on. I'm not one of those people, but I would love to engage that discussion.
Well, I wrote a piece on that
called
Bamboozled.
Okay.
Low-income white people throughout history, because my company is called History Matters Institute, and what we do is use history to explain what's happening today, to bring insight, understanding, so that people can be thoughtful and to lead to introspection, which leads to change. And so I wrote a piece about how they mark poverty. And they mark poverty as being, when they mark poverty as being Black, then they respond to it with laws that put people in prison and the cutting of social programs. And when they mark poverty as being your kin people, your neighbor, that's when you get things like like President Roosevelt's New Deal program and President Johnson's war on poverty, because it was marked as being your brother's problem.
A white problem.
Yes.
Okay.
And so even though I benefited from the war on poverty under President Johnson, all those wonderful programs that actually got people out of poverty came about because it was presented in
it wasn't
that way.
intended for you. It wasn't intended to benefit. We were a residual effect as opposed to the intended impact.
Oh, I won't just say that. I will just say that because it was marked as being your brothers and your neighbors, then laws could actually get passed. See, right now, laws can't get passed to help poor people because it has been marked as a black people problem.
Yeah.
So even though the majority of the people in the United States that's poor are white, because the problem is marked, they are not getting any help to their community.
Yeah.
And so what happened was that Trump told them, lied to them, that he was going to stand up for poor people, poor white people.
Yeah.
But because poverty is still marked as black, the legislators are still voting against everything that would benefit a poor white person.
That's powerful.
The same way that white people were bamboozled in the Civil War, that they had a dog in that fight. They had no dog in that fight. That was purely about rich white planters keeping their money.
Yes.
And they convinced the poor dirt farmer to come and take a Barnes. And they still been tricked. They still haven't figured out, most of them, that they were bamboozled. I tell them sometime, and then they look all shocked, like,
So that's you just said a mouthful. You just said so many things. There was one particular thing that you said that really stuck out to me when you were talking about the marking. So I'll go back to social activism. A lot of African American social activists make a point of it to point out black problems. Do you think that the way that they're putting them out there as black problems is why that we aren't getting any results on them? If they framed them as poor people problems, much in the way that Martin Luther King was looking at the poor people's
but you see what happened to him.
Yes,
right?
I mean,
you do understand why that happened to him, because the biggest fear of wealthy white men is poor whites and poor blacks joining together. That's their greatest fear.
Yes.
Or blacks and Hispanics joining together. That's their greatest fear.
Well, the crazy thing is, me and my daughter, 2 years ago, we had the hurricane scare for Matthew, I believe it was. We went to Atlanta. And while we were in Atlanta, we believe in making the most of every time we get. So we were in Atlanta. We did the entire Martin Luther King museum situation. So we walked through and we looked at the walls of the Jim Crow laws, and we looked at everything. And we inspected everything. Like, we spent like 4 hours in there, like just really soaking it all in. And you watch the timeline, and he was so loved when he was just talking about, let's just get equality for black people. But as soon as he switched to the poor people's movement, then you would notice that his approval rating started to go down, because then he was asking for too much.
It was in the toilet when he was killed.
Yeah, I mean,
but now they're all in love with him.
The most beloved.
Love him because he talks about peace and us being together. Oh
Yes.
He was such an awesome guy.
Let me read some of these comments really quick. We got a lot of them. Right now we have 9 people on. Praise God. Thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, this is Real Talk with Rajan, and I am your host, Rajan Lewis, if you don't know who I am, and I'm here with the phenomenal woman, in Maya Angelou's words. That was Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou's words, Miss Cleo Scott Brown. Didn't call you Thomas. And we're having a discussion about many things. She is an author, she is a public speaker, and she also is a racial strategist. So if you hear us speaking about race, it's definitely in a way that is definitely designed towards a substantive discussion as opposed to just finger pointing and things of that nature.
Yeah,
So please do not turn away because you hear race being discussed. We need to be able to have discussions like this in a meaningful and a direct way. So thank you so much for staying on board if you are with us. We got a few comments from Pamela Demery. I already said I love this woman, very powerful woman. Norva Miles, she's the most brave woman I know. Miss Sherelle Brown, two of my favorite people. Marlon Brown, my mom is being interviewed live right now. Check it out.
Oh, okay.
Ella Deliston Fleming, we learned so much about civil rights from this woman. Troy McLean Jr., you know Troy? That's my dude. Phenomenal woman you're interviewing. Ella Deliston Fleming, God has given Cleo the passion and wisdom to teach and speak about race. And she says, ask Cleo, but she didn't tell me what exactly to ask you. She said, passion to educate our people. This is her sole desire that God has implemented on her. Thank you, Cleo, for being your voice. Pamela DeMarie.
Oh, okay.
I am in all of you. Keep teaching power and knowledge. And phenomenal woman, we love you. Absolutely a phenomenal woman. So thank you so much. So if you have comments, questions, please make sure you do leave them. I would normally read them from the screen, which is right behind it, but I took my glasses off, so I can't really see them, to be honest with you. But please continue to comment. I do have my phone right here, so if you see me looking down, I'm looking at the comments to make sure we are responding to your comments. Just staying in that vein, what we were talking about, as far as I want to make sure we do attach the issue. How well versed are you with what's going on as far as the discussions that are being had around the police, the treatment of the Charleston County Police of people of color in our country? I mean, in our city.
Oh, I have not read the report.
Okay, so there was a report by Cajun that came out that talked about the fact that African Americans are twice as likely to be stopped for no reason than Caucasians of the same kind. When you hear things like that, as a racial strategist, what is your approach or your advice as to how social activists should get involved in attacking that problem?
I think that everybody has a role to play.
Yes.
And I think that one of the things that we do as a community is we attack people who are coming from a different strategy or whatever. And so, like, people would talk about Mahdi.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't necessarily agree with that in your face.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes that in your face kind of strategy calls people to talk to other people.
Absolutely.
And so I feel that we have to have all the different kinds of people. So I'm the kind of person who talks to white people one-on-one. I'm the person who pulls the white person in the corner, and we have these in-depth conversations. We're emailing back and forth. I talk to you on the phone. I will sit down and talk to you as long as I need to talk to you. I write because they read. I'm talking about the people who are in the places of decision making. Yes. And then you have people who rally and march. They're responsible for getting the stuff on the TV.
Yes.
Because the regular folk don't know about it unless it gets on the TV. If they didn't march and shout and carry on, we never, not we, but I'm saying a lot of people would never know about it.
Dr. King, you watched Selma, he talked about it. He said, I'm going to bring, he said, when I come, we're going to bring the cameras. And you need the cameras on this problem. You need a white face on this problem. He said that. So yes.
So you have people like Reverend Rivers, who's talking to a different audience, and who is a part of these forums that they are having, which involves us. When I mean us, I mean the last Jim Crow generation. We're the ones the last ones to grow up, and we're the ones that's really creating this situation.
Yeah.
And so then you have your ministers, your pastors to help to rally the troops sometimes. And so I'm saying that as long as we are all operating in our own lane and not attacking other people for operating in their lane, then it'll all work together.
Absolutely.
Because every part is important.
Right.
Every part is important.
Yes. Yes. I agree totally. And I feel you on so many levels. There's a lot of things going on that I just want to 110% say that I agree with the fact that we can definitely do more for people of all backgrounds, but especially when we're talking about Black people, we can't operate as a segmented base. Like, there's not enough of us to do that. Even in cities like North Charleston, where African Americans are 53% of the demographic.
Yeah, but we don't act like it.
We don't vote.
Yeah.
We don't vote.
And so I'm trying to figure out what is all this whining about on social media. When West Ashley, the woman that was running for the House of Representatives, was the woman who's clearly outlining her platform in helping police officers, defending police officers against the community. And I mean, she's got all this stuff, and you allowed her to be elected. But if you were concerned, and so you have all these people running for governor now that are clearly
if you
with
watch
a racist agenda. You know, they use the code word immigrant. That's like, let's make America white again, because we need to get rid of all these Hispanic voters. The gangs, that's code word for Black people. I mean, it's like they're not talking about improving the educational system. They're not talking about the economics. These are people running for governor. And that's all they got to talk about. Is
it's an interesting thing happening.
Minorities. And you still, you know, the lady running for lieutenant governor, she calls herself what she say? She's a trumpet or something like that.
I saw that.
And I'm just like,
that's fun. That's fun.
Aren't we inspired to vote?
Well, and so I think, you know, the voting thing, and what I found with a lot of Black people that I speak to who say I don't vote, they say they don't vote because they feel like, well, it's already decided. And I'm sure you've heard this stuff before.
And I tell them that's the same thing they were telling the Black folks in my community when my dad was trying to get people to vote.
Right.
It's not. But they want you to believe that so that you stay.
Yeah. Well, plus you look at the fact that, like, I mean, the first year Obama was elected, I believe that was the largest turnout of African Americans in the history of the presidential election. I believe we only showed up at like 45%.
And then 2 years later, they threw him under the bus and let the bus roll over.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, I'm just saying,
because they didn't have enough sense to think, I guess.
That he was the president of all America. He was the American president, not the Black president.
But it was, I mean, it's just confusing to me, and I don't really get a chance to really have these great conversations with that 40-year-old, that 35 to 45-year-old group. That's the group that
is
I'll say the 40-year-olds grew up when race relations were at their best.
Yes.
And they seem to not see what is happening because race relations in America has always been cyclical.
Yeah.
It doesn't go in a straight line up, straight line down. It does this, whoop, shoot, shoot. And it has a specific pattern. Black people gain political power. White men of power say that's not acceptable. They figure out a way to start changing the laws that allow that reduce power. And once those laws are put in place, then they can really do other things like be killing people, like with the police now, and people, these white nationalists just walking in and killing people. So they can get to do those things and not pay for it, not be punished for it. And then once the killing gets bad enough where it's just straight out open in the street, then the good white people say, no, enough is enough. And then they help Black people regain some power. And then Black people get some semblance of political power. And then the cycle starts again.
Wow.
That's when you study history, it'll explain everything.
And I'm a history.
Everything.
I'm a history nut. So I'm soaking this all in, and I'm definitely I'm going to be asking you for book book references and everything, just so I can make sure that I know the stuff that you're talking about, because there's a wealth of knowledge that one you've lived through, you've written about, I'm sure you've interviewed tons of people for your research and things of that nature, and apparently you're still even to this day taking classes. Let that be a lesson to you kids. Lifelong learner. Lifelong learner. All right. You always spend your life learning. As a teacher, I teach 5th grade, and that's something I always teach my children: is you got to continue to learn. Learning does not stop.
Okay.
So thank you so much for sharing that. I want to go back to the gap between the older generation of activists and the way you guys did things and the younger generation of activists. As a 36-year-old who considers myself not an activist, but somebody who cares and takes action. So if that makes me an activist, then so be it. But I definitely see myself making a change on a day-to-day basis with the things that I do with my mentoring organization, as well as through this show and in the schools. And I have some plans for the future as well that we can talk about once we get out camera. But one thing I do find is that there is that gap between our older generation, our elders, and the younger people who say, work that up, or we're going to call this out, we're going to call that out. How do we bridge that gap?
Well, I've seen some interesting trends, that's making me happy, is that the younger ones, and I'm saying like 18, 19, 20 to 25, they are actually reaching out to the elders, where there was one group that seemed to think that the elders were dumb and stupid and had nothing to contribute. And so this younger group is like, okay, we want to learn. We need to not reinvent the wheel, but in some cases it has to be reinvented because of the way that people communicate. But I do see some coming together and definitely some interest.
Wow.
And I remember at Mahadin's funeral when Reverend Rivers made that commitment, because he talked about how many times he had called him to set up meetings. And I was like about to crawl under the pew because Mahadin had asked me how many times can we meet? Can we talk? Why won't the elders help us do this and do that? And I was so convicted. I was so convicted. But Reverend Rivers said at the funeral that they were going to start a school of Mahadin Moye Leadership School, and it would be where a coming together of the elders and the young ones, as he calls them. And so I'm going to follow up on that and see what's going on with that. But I think that would be a great thing.
I think that's a great way to start. And that's something that I find. I'm a diplomat at heart. I believe in diplomacy. I believe in talking things through, and I believe in working things out in a substantive way that we can move forward together. Because I believe together we're much stronger than we are separated. The elders need that energy from those young people, but the young people need the knowledge and the wisdom from the elders to they need to hear from you. Somebody who's been through it, who knows it, who's written about it, who's researched it, as opposed to just, this is how I feel and I want everybody to feel how I feel. Like that can't be what we're doing. So I've had these discussions, to try to, when I see the conflict, try to bridge the gap for the conflict. And I believe, and I was actually in a panel discussion with AJ. I don't know if you know Anjane Davis. AJ Davis. If you don't know AJ, you need to know AJ. AJ is amazing. He's on my show twice.
Okay.
I love AJ. I love AJ. We did a panel discussion last week with quite a few people I'm pretty sure you know. And that was one of the discussions is how do we move forward? How do we as a people move forward? But nothing ever was brought up about the fact that our elders have to be brought into the discussion. We have to understand the route that they've taken. I also want to ask you about, I'm sorry, I know I pivoted really quickly. I want to ask you about, is this also cyclical? Because we look at the civil rights movement. We had the civil rights movement. Then we had Martin Luther King get a little older, and then you had like on the movie Selma, you had the younger people starting their younger, and they're like, nah, we don't want Martin Luther King to come in bringing his cameras.
He's too
right. And then you had, you had John Lewis that joined Martin Luther King, but then after that you had the Panthers, and the Panthers like, nah, we're not doing that. So there's always a thing where it's like we're fighting against what came before.
But it was the Panthers that made President Johnson listen to Martin Luther King.
Absolutely, because you
and say, okay, we're going to do something now.
Yes.
Because this is like a power keg that can just blow up on us.
Yes.
And so, like I say, everybody has their role.
Yes.
And even like the what you don't even think like, okay, that's wrong. That's just the wrong way to go about it. But actually, that wrong way of, in your opinion, of going about it actually creates an audience.
Yes, you needed Martin, you needed Malcolm, you needed the Panthers, you needed Huey, you needed all of them so they can understand, okay, well, that's a little rough for me to deal with, but this Martin guy, he might be, I can talk to him.
I'll let him at the table.
I'll talk to him.
He's not talking about shooting.
Yes. You're absolutely right.
But the crazy thing is that they were all asking for the same right.
Yes.
But it was a matter of presentation.
And that's why, my brother, we talk about this a lot. He's much more Malcolm. I'm much more Martin. And that's something I know that comes with a certain level of it comes with a certain level of scrutiny when it comes to the Black community, because people aren't really trying to talk things out a whole lot these days. They want to, you have to do something right now. If you're not out there in these streets protesting right now, you're not doing anything.
And what they failed to realize was that everything Dr. King did there was a strategy meeting.
Yes.
Everything was very strategic. Just like the White Citizens Council and that controlled what Black people did and controlled their jobs and all that. It was very strategic. They had meetings.
Yes.
And so people who want to be activists, if they don't learn that first lesson, it's all about a strategy.
Yes, organization.
You got to figure out where you're trying to go.
Yeah.
And then you got to figure out the pieces to get there.
Yes.
Then you got to figure out who's got to fill those different parts of those pieces to get you there.
Right. Like change the system as a generic statement says nothing. And this is something that I want to get your take on this, because we've been talking for a while, and I could talk to you forever. I really could. Like this may be my favorite interview ever. I just want to put it out there. I'm sorry. Those who watch Real Talk with John, if you've been on before and you're watching this, you're like, I thought I was his favorite. This is my favorite discussion I've ever had on camera. So I'm sorry. I'm enjoying myself. If you got to go, I understand. Watch it later. But I'm enjoying this discussion.
Well, don't go before I tell them about race.
No, I won't. Please don't go. Oh, please don't go. We're gonna talk about the book. We're having such a good discussion, and people seem to be enjoying this. So I'm gonna please stick around. And I'll make sure I'm gonna plug the book and everything like that. Specific strategy. Do you find that a lot of the younger people that are coming out do not have those strategies? They're not focusing on the organization piece that comes with the activism, i.e. a Huey. You look at a Huey, he had the Black Panthers. When he had the Black Panthers, they had like a 10-point program that was strategized. That was strategized specifically to change what was going on in Oakland and in the world.
And that is why people don't want to deal with this, but that is why all those drugs were dumped into the Black community. We weren't dope heads. Right. That was actually an intentional act to break the power of the Black Panther, because they were going from an economic and taking care of our own, establishing excellent education, preschool, feeding programs, all addressing the issues of the community from within the community. And because their influence was becoming so strong, then that was what was done.
But and that's another thing.
And so back to your question, you asked me about young
people and strategy.
And so I'm going to say I can't answer that question, because before now, most of my dealings have been with white people
Wow.
on race,
Wow.
talking with them, working with them, whatever. So that's not to say that my desire isn't to spend some time with young adults, but I have just discovered that young adults are now interested in having those conversations.
Yes.
So, you know, if you're out there and you want to,
I think this is a good opportunity to probably start kicking around some ideas, maybe some forums that would allow people to come in and hear discussions from people like you, who do have that experience and have been out there, and maybe even bring in some younger people to have that discussion in that forum, and just have people in the audience, just a panel discussion. I think that would be something we definitely could set up in the future. Would you be interested in doing something like that?
Yeah, I would.
And you could bring the book and you could sell the book?
Well, that's either. No, I would come anyway.
No, we gotta sell the book too, though.
Yeah. But it's like the young people that say Black Lives Matter. Yeah. They're like I don't think they understand why they're being so viciously attacked. Like what did we do?
What we do wrong?
Why are they so?
Yeah.
Why are whole campaigns being run against Black Lives Matter?
Yeah.
And so, but when you study history, and you see any organization that is designed to bring Black people out of a situation, then it is attacked in the media. In the media. And the media creates this bad reputation that is in turn, he causes the regular folks to backlash against that organization.
Wow.
But I think, you know, I was saying I was going to start doing more videos and everything, try to explain some things on video because a lot of people don't read. But I mean, like everything is tied together, like the White Citizens Council that pulled that full economic boycott against my dad and against Reverend Atlas. And then what happened to the White Citizens Council? Did it just ride off into the sunset? No, it didn't. They took all the remaining members that were a part of the White Citizens Council and they formed this organization called the Council of Conservative Citizens. The Council of Conservative Citizens is the organization who Dylan Roof went to their website, and it was their website that convinced Dylan Roof that Black people were dangerous and scary people that needed to be gotten rid of.
Wow.
So it's like you have to. I try to write for understanding so that people will understand who the enemy is and who there is one organization, the organization that just gutted that brought the lawsuit, that gutted the Voting Rights Act, the same organization that brought the lawsuit to prevent to try to get rid of minority set-asides in college admissions. The same organization is the organization that was trying to change some of the ways who is counted in a district for districting. The same organization is the one that brought the suit to get the Asians. They couldn't win the college lawsuit with a white woman. So they got the Asians to fight the Hispanics and the Blacks to say that they are losing seats in college because of these other minorities. But it's the same organization, and their whole mission is to get rid of every law on the books that provide legal protections to minorities.
Wow.
And if you don't know about that organization, if you don't keep up with what they are doing, then you don't even really understand who the enemy is.
Right. Wow.
So that's why I like I say, I write about all these things, but I guess I got to do video.
No, so I think you need to do videos. I think that you should be in the forefront as it pertains to panel discussions about race and race relations. I think that you have so much to say. And like I said, I could talk to you for hours. I'm not going to talk to you for hours, but I could talk to you for hours. And I want to pivot to your book from there. But this is not the last time you will see Ms. Cleo Scott Brown on my show. I promise you. There's just so much there that I want to delve into, but I want to be respectful of your time. Your book. Let's start with Witness to the Truth was the first book, correct?
Yeah, Witness to the Truth is published by the University of South Carolina Press. And Essence bestseller. Summer read selection.
I would have red carpet out if I knew you would have with the Essence bestseller. Okay.
And so that was the first book, and that's, like I say, that covers about 100 years of history and blacks and whites and what's going on.
Is this just in Louisiana, or is this abroad?
I mean, it's the setting is in Louisiana, but it explains what's going on in the United States.
Okay.
It explains those different organizations, how they worked, how the suits, how the NAACP was doing all these great things and how they destroyed it. Like they same way. If you read what they did to the NAACP, you would understand what they were doing to Black Lives Matter. Then you wouldn't be surprised. You would know what to do. And so, so to me, it explains how we got to where we are.
Yeah.
And it takes you it's systematic. And it tells you what was happening with the churches and the schools and and the government and all of this. And when you get to the end, you were like, wow. Okay, now I understand. My strongest comments about Witness to the Truth are from white males.
Wow.
I finally get it.
Wow.
I'm like, I know God did that.
Which goes back to our original thing, is that we assume that they know these things.
Oh, they don't know.
That they don't know. And I mean, you don't have, but why? But like you said, we say, it's not taught in the schools. So they're not going to learn it in school. They're not going to, like, they don't come home and say, hey, let me tell you about white privilege. Like, that's not a thing. Okay, I'm not going to say. Raceology.
Raceology. Okay, after 10 years of being on the road and keep hearing the same things come up from Black folk and from white people and from other minority groups, ethnic groups, I decided I'm like, okay, we need to just address this stuff that is in the way of real conversations on race. And so, every chapter is only like 3 or 4 pages long, and every chapter deals with like a different issue, like bamboozle again, poor whites. I really wanted a BMW, Perils of Having Sons. That's about policing and having male children, and I wanted to buy a BMW in Clinton because I had a black child. It was basically explaining that to white people, the dangerous power of one, explaining how that one organization has done all these really crippling things, what I learned at the radio station, how the media controls, OMG, the last Jim Crow generation is in charge, helping people understand like how we grew up and how that is changing policies and how it's, can we just leave the past in the past?
No.
That's the first one, because for white people, that's the thing they always say. And so I give reasons for why you don't say these things and why they are bad and what you do to people when you do these things. And like IOD today, that's about Black people operating down to other people's expectations. And so it's all these different topics that's not very long, but what I'm working on now is a discussion guide.
Okay.
And you should go to the proofreader hopefully next week. And every chapter has a series of questions. So if you have a discussion group, which I'm hoping this is used with discussion groups, where you can just go chapter by chapter and get together, and the discussion questions are there. The facilitator doesn't have to be thinking, what should we talk about? I give you those questions that's going to cause you to dive deep.
Yeah.
The first one might be a surface question, but if you go down the list, you're going to be going deeper in that particular topic.
Wow.
Or it's going to have a topical index where if you just want to talk about Black boys or whatever the topic, you can look in the topical index and just pick that essay and say, this is what we are going to be talking about tonight.
That's amazing.
So,
I love that. What's that one going to be called?
No, it's just a discussion
It's just a guide.
that
Okay.
I'm going to load out on my website
Wow.
to go with Raceology 101.
Wow.
So
Raceology 101, Witness to the Truth, Cleo Scott Brown. I am in awe. I am in awe of everything. And like I told you, I didn't, when I set up for these, I tried to know as little about the person as possible so that
so
this
you
can
knew
be
zero about
so this
me.
could right. So this could be a genuine conversation, which I believe it has been.
Yeah.
Like if we just met in a coffee shop, this will be like this is exactly how it would happen, and that's how it happens on Real Talk. So thank you so much for joining me. I want to end on this. Where?
My website.
Yes, that's what I was about to tell you. That's what I was going to. See.
My website is cleoscottbrown.com. Cleo, C-L-E-O. ScottBrown.com.
Okay.
Now I'm on Facebook, Cleo Scott Brown on Facebook.
And do you do? I know you do public speaking. Right? Do you have any upcoming dates that you'll be speaking at in the near future?
Not right now. No, I have some workshops coming up. I do workshops on bias, thinking consciously about race and class.
Wow.
And so
when's the next one of those?
Well, it's not open to the public, but I'm doing something with Teach for America staff, and then I have something to do with some teachers in Rock Hill, and so.
And you'll be on our panel discussion. You'll be on our panel when we have that, right?
The date is right.
Trust me, I'm setting it up around you.
I'm trying not to be ADD.
I understand.
Adult.
I understand.
So I need to finish the discussion, guys.
No, finish that.
Because a lot of people have already bought the book, and they need this guide to get those discussion groups going.
Yes.
And then the other major project is I'm going to be working with my son on a documentary.
Is that Marv?
Not Marlon, but Devin.
Okay.
Devin is with my other son. He's in DC. But Marlon helps me too, because he helped me with I did a video, Black Panther, Wakanda is here. And I did it because children don't understand that the major cities in Black Africa look just like the major cities in New York and Chicago. So I did a little video on that, and then my son in DC helped me do the one on the Confederate flag. So because I think that one is powerful because it helps white people understand what is the real issue with that. Yeah. And so that's what I want to do, more explaining videos. And so we're going to do, the role of the church, the white church, in creating this racial divide is going to go all the way back to the 1400s in the Roman Catholic Church, the Church of England, and how Americans fought the church in England because they said you had to be released from slavery if they were converted, and how they couldn't even spread the gospel in America because they were so afraid of having to release Africans from bondage. And so we just want to kind of tell that story.
Wow, that's
so that the modern day church can understand that this is the spirit that the church, the Protestant church planted in America, and only they can kill that spirit off.
Wow, that's profound. That's so wow.
The Holy Spirit told me to tell them that.
Hey, you gotta be obedient, right? Gotta be obedient. Thank you so much. That's a mouthful. So we're gonna look. I'm gonna send you some dates, and I'm gonna build it around what day you tell me you can be available. I'm dead serious. So I'm hoping by the summer you'll be done, because I'm a teacher, so I work during the summer. I do my best work. All right. Thank you, Ms. Cleo Scott.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.
I know I talk a lot.
No, you're good. You're good. Witness to the truth. Cleo Scott Brown, Raceology 101. Cleo Scott Brown, and the discussion guide is coming. Go to cleoscottbrown.com, and also go find her on her Facebook page, Cleo Scott Brown, on her Facebook page as well.
And both books are on Amazon.
Both books are on Amazon.
And And Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble, wherever you buy books, she's a bestseller. Trust me, I'm gonna get my copy very, very shortly. Do you have any audiobooks? Audiobooks?
Oh no, but I need to talk to the University of South Carolina Press.
Yes.
Because I really think that this book could change America.
Yes.
It was used in Fort Dorchester for about 4 years, and I would come out at the end of in literature class, and I would come out at the end of the session and really have great discussions with the children. And I'm really that's something that's the big desire of my heart, is to see it in schools, because I don't think that any book explains race in America better than that.
I agree.
And it is bad. I mean, it's not humble to say stuff like that, but I really think, I mean, I have like pages of comments from people saying this book should be in every school. This book should be in every school, like, from all over the United States, that it would really help children, teenagers really understand.
Okay. All right.
Race in America.
Wow. And I can't wait to read it myself. I haven't read it yet, but I will, because I'm going to get my copy. How much are they?
This one, well, you buy it from me, it's cheaper than it's $15 online. And Witness to the Truth is $19.99 or something like that online.
They can just put it into the thing, Witness to the Truth, or just put in your name and it'll come right up?
Yeah, you can put in either one.
All right, cool. All right, well, thank you so much, Ms. Cleo Scott Brown. This has been an amazing interview, a great opportunity to learn from, like we said, the elders of the community who have been through and have seen the things that we have not yet seen, and have had the opportunity to do the research and to really tell the story. So I thank you, and I thank you for your contribution. I want to thank you for your contribution to society and for continuing to tell the story and to engage those discussions even when they're uncomfortable. That's one thing that I definitely aspire to do in the future through this platform, in any platform that I'm on, to engage discussions that are otherwise not had. This will not be the last time I see you. So thank you so much.
And sign up for the newsletter.
Sign up for the newsletter. History 101. Making history.
It's History Matters Report.
History Matters Report.
But you can sign up for it on the homepage of my website or on my Facebook page.
History Matters. History Matters. I'm just in awe. I'm probably gonna be talking about you to like the next 87 people I speak to, but that's cool. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for sticking with us. I see there's a lot of people still on. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us and watching the show tonight. Y'all know what we do here. Y'all know the discussions that I'm trying to have. I think it's important, and I want to end on this. I think it's important that we continue to engage our elders. All of our elders may not have written books or done specific research, but they have that life experience that we can all learn from and use. You know, I speak to my grandma about things like this and about the things that she experienced growing up in segregated schools in the South. Just things like that. We have to continue to soak up that wisdom while it's still here, because as much as we think we know, we don't know half as much as we believe we know. So we definitely need to embrace a Cleo Scott Brown, a MRA Capers, whoever it is, you know, that is that elder in your life that can give you that information. So thank you guys so much for watching. This is Real Talk with Rajan. For those who don't know, this is my show that I do every Wednesday night. I do a local celebrity spotlight. Tomorrow night, I will be shining a light on my cousin, Alfonso A.C. Riley, who will be debuting his new gospel song video for Here I Am, which actually featured me and my wife, which I'm really excited about. So please join us tomorrow night. If you enjoyed tonight's show, please tune back in tomorrow night. You'll love that. Sunday nights from 7 to 8, you know how it goes down. Music, sports, politics, you name it. We discuss it every Sunday night. Real Talk with Rajan. One more time, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me. I will be speaking to you in the future. Cleo Scott Brown. CleoScottBrown.com. Facebook. She's not on Twitter. She hasn't said. Are you on Twitter?
Not on Twitter.
She's not on Twitter. She's not on Instagram. No, I try to tag you for Instagram. You're on Instagram.
I gotta get with the program.
I'm saying you gotta get it out there.
I need some young people on my team.
Oh, I got you.
Help me.
I got you. You already got one though. That's all you got. Real Talk with Rajon, Sunday nights, 7 to 8. And as I always say, as the great Malcolm X once said, if a man doesn't stand for something, he's bound to fall for anything. So that's Real Talk. I'll see you this Sunday. Peace.